Tired of serving up the same old tasteless victuals to your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Cloy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to CloysSouthernEats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And everybody, welcome back to the Sunday, September 24th edition of the Razorback Football Report with Otis Kirk. I'm your host, Jason Pattyson. Again, thank you for Coy Southern Eats, everything that they do. Go out and check out all their spices and their rubs at CloysSouthernEats.com. Select locations in Central Arkansas and also on Amazon. Otis, I'm going to tell you, man, last night was another heartbreaker. It really was.
Yeah, they went down and played the number 12 team off their feet in Baton Rouge, and here's the thing about it is it's a disappointing loss. I mean, there's no moral victories. If you had beaten BYU, you feel a lot better about the game last night. You'd be 3-1, but you played the number 12 team at their place off their feet, and LSU may be the best team in the SEC. I mean, certainly may be the best in the West. Daniels is a machine, man. He and KJ, those guys are good, man. Those two. Both those two are stud quarterbacks, man. I mean, Alabama doesn't have either. He doesn't have a Jay Daniels or a KJ Jefferson, although I think Milroe will be okay there. But anyway, it was disappointing. I mean, in the sense it's 11 penalties, another close loss. Arkansas is going to have to fight. In the last 2 years with Sam, they've lost a lot of close games, and they've got to find a way to win some of them, Jason. They've just got to.
Yeah.
It did the year they went 9-4. They found ways to win some of those games, and right now they're finding ways to not win them, and that's got to change. But, I mean, just the 11 penalties was the most disappointing thing to me. More than a loss. I figured Arkansas would lose. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout. I didn't know. I mean, every time these two teams play, man. Hey, Sam is 3-4 against LSU as a coach at Arkansas, as either assistant or head coach. And most of the losses have been like that one last night. I mean, he was 2-1 with Bielema, beat LSU 17-0 and 14 to get Bielema his first SEC win at Arkansas. That was in Razorback Stadium. God, it was cold that night. And then in 2000,
I remember that. Yeah,
they went to Baton Rouge and won a night game, stomped LSU. So he was 2-1 with Bielema, and then he is 1-3 as a head coach, and the losses have been like 3 points. So. Yeah, I mean, it's he's been right there with one of the best programs in the country. So, it shows you that they've got the talent. I think what will happen once Arkansas wins, and Evan and I talked about this on Pig Trail Nation earlier today. May be wrong, but both of us kind of agree that I think once Arkansas wins one of these close games, then they'll think the tide will kind of turn, because right now they're losing them, and I think once they win one, I think not that they haven't won close games with Sam, they have, but they've lost a lot the last 2 years. Most of the games like this they've lost. I just think once they win one, the tide may turn on this, but they've got to cut down on penalties. I mean, 25 penalties in 2 weeks, and there were some bogus calls against BYU. Yeah. There were some bogus calls. I'm not one of those. I hear all people. I'm not blaming the officials. Officials have not, that's fine. Don't blame the officials. I do. I blame them, but I also blame. But most of those, probably all those holding calls against BYU were legit. They were holding calls. There was just like last night. LSU gets the interception. They go down the end zone and celebrate with their fans. That's the exact thing that Arkansas got called for against BYU. That's the exact thing that Arkansas got called for. So the inconsistent calls seem to go against Arkansas, and they did. And anybody doesn't think fishing makes a difference. It did in the Liberty Bowl. And
they do.
the only reason that referee got called out is because they didn't want Quincy McAdoo to be suspended the first half of the Western Carolina game for a bogus targeting call. And it turned out we know Quincy had the wreck, so it didn't make any difference. But the point was they called that referee out. I think there'd be more of that if there were circumstances that dictate. But when you have review and you still miss calls, but last night there was a lot. I mean, those calls. I mean, I felt like last night Arkansas may have gotten some calls that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. I thought LSU got away with holding a lot that didn't get called. But I didn't think the officiating beat them last night. Now, I didn't say it beat them against BYU, but I said there were some bogus calls. Last night, I felt like Arkansas had to – man, those false start penalties are killers. I mean, you're at the third and goal at the 1 yard line, and you don't give yourself a chance there. You get a false start. And it was when the defensive line would move, then one of the offensive linemen or be at the tight end – Backs did it twice in a row. Josh Bryant had the one at the 1 yard line. I think Luke even had one there. There was some, and Brady Latham had one. There were some calls that when the defensive line would move because of the noise, the offensive line would go, and you got to avoid that. And it was costly last night. It you felt like when it was 6-0, Arkansas was dominating, but you still felt like there was something lacking because it was field goals and not touchdowns, Jason. Even one touchdown there would have made a difference, I think. But I don't know. I mean, once Daniels got in a groove there towards the end of the first half there when he took them down the field and hit that 49-yarder and then came out in the second half, first quarter. The third quarter, the first series, hit the same 49-yard pass. I felt like then it was going to be – you're just going to have to outscore them, And there was another time they had to settle for a field goal there in the second half, and it really hurt, when you run the fake field goal and you got the first down, but you still had to end up settling for a 40-yard field goal. So I don't know. I mean, it was a disappointing game, but they played their butts off against the number 12 team in the country. And like I said, if they were 3-1 today, I think we'd all feel probably better about them because they would have beaten BYU to get to there and then lost that 3-point game. But I will say this. I know everybody points out all the weaknesses about Arkansas, and I get that. But I'm telling you, every team in the SEC had, except for maybe Georgia, the rest of them all have some weaknesses. I mean, glaring weaknesses.
Yeah.
And there's not an automatic loss on the schedule. Now, with that said, there's not an automatic win. These are all winnable games that's left. They're all losable games that's left. But and I'm not really talking about Florida International. I'm talking about the SEC game. They're all winnable, but they're all losable. I don't think Alabama is just an automatic loss. But, I mean, they darn sure could be one. You got to play well, but you got to cut off the penalty. But what I'm getting at is I think, we point out the Arkansas shortcomings. I've watched a lot of SEC football when I get a chance. It may be bits and pieces, but I've seen enough to know that all these teams have shortcomings of sorts of themselves.
Really quick before I dive into what I was going to say, they just showed on television Taylor Swift up in the suites at Kansas City with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce's mom. So I feel it's safe to report that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are a official couple. So I'm going to throw that out there for what it's worth. But for
now, Austin Reeves and Taylor Swift were not an official couple. That was made.
No, they weren't.
That was made up stuff. Austin said if it had been on the golf course instead of a bar, it might have been believable.
Been more believable.
Yeah.
So that they just showed that on national television. So to put everybody to rest, Taylor Swift is at Kansas City right now with Jason and Travis Kelce's mom in the suite. So she took Travis up on the offer of, I got to see you rock Arrowhead. Now I want you to come see me rock Arrowhead like he said last week. So there's that. But anyway, so going back to the game for just a moment here. Whenever I was watching that first half, I felt like Arkansas was getting good penetration down the field. They were moving the ball efficiently, and I was afraid that they were going to get shot in the foot at the end of the game by not being able to capitalize on touchdowns and only settling for field goals. And then when I saw the defense on both sides kind of break loose a little bit, and LSU hit that long 49-yard touchdown to Thomas before the end of the half, right after KJ had got them into the end zone as well, I thought this is going to come down to whoever has the ball last type game, because I really thought that the way that KJ and also Jaden Daniels was operating, they were going to really set it up for an epic ending, which is what we saw. And unfortunately, it was the Razorbacks on the bad end of that. Like you said, 3-1 versus 2-2 is a lot easier to swallow after a loss like this on the road in Death Valley. But man, I'm telling you, you didn't see Rocket make the trip. You didn't see AJ get 3 rushes the entire game. Are you able to expand on AJ and his role last night at all?
Well, I don't know, other than just this period. Rashad played his best game before. I mean,
yeah,
I've been critical of him getting the carries over AJ in the sense that he wasn't producing. But last night he produced when AJ on his 3 carries didn't produce. So, I mean, to me, they did what I've been wondering why they hadn't done. They went with the hot hand, but they didn't do that the week before with AJ. They still gave Rashad more carries the week before, but last night Rashad earned those carries.
Yeah, he did.
I felt like he earned them last night as opposed to he was giving them, like maybe in the BYU game. I felt like AJ deserved you ride the hot hand, and he definitely had the hot hand as he has the first 3 games till last night. I don't know. I mean, I feel like they can justify it by talking about how DeBinion played, but I mean, they've been giving him more carries when you didn't have the hot hand, and but whatever. I mean, DeBinion had a good game last night, and I'm not going to say AJ didn't, because they only got 3 carries and they were sporadic here, 1 here. You can't get 1 here, 1 later, 1 over there and produce. You can't do it. But I had no issue with what they did at running back last night. I wish that's what I wanted them to do against BYU, was to ride the hot hand with AJ. And last night, it was Rashad that had the hot hand, so ride it. I mean, I think that's what you ought to do, Jason. That they haven't done that, and that's been my puzzle. They didn't do it. They did last night, but they didn't do it before with AJ. So, yeah, I don't know what the difference is. But anyway, Rashad earned that last night. He kept them in the game. He had some nice runs, man. And he looked like the Rashad of last year. Because last year it really didn't matter if it was Rashad or AJ in there. They both were producing. When Rocket was out, both them kids produced. Like in the Liberty Bowl, man. I mean, those kids were running their butts off, both of them. But Rashad simply hadn't played that well this year. But he did last night. And hopefully, regardless of what Rocket's status is, and he's getting closer, but regardless of that, hopefully Rashad is back to being Rashad. AJ will be fine. He just got to get more than 3 carries, 2 or 3 carries. But they've got a deep running back room. But Rashad, for the first time this season, showed it last night that what he can do. That's the Rashad we come to know last year.
Yep. I want to say congratulations also to Luke Haas. We saw him score his first touchdown as a Razorback last week, but last night I feel like was his coming out party. Man. The way that he was able to operate down the field really kind of reminded me of Hunter Henry and how he was able to stretch the defense, not on that front 7, but on that back end. And then he busted loose over the top there. I don't know what happened there, but to have a tight end not have anybody within 20 yards of him being able to make a catch like that and then just scamper into the end zone. I mean, that I know Sam was really excited about his performance last night.
I've got 2 predictions on Luke, and I made these earlier, but I'm going to go back and make them again. I predicted Luke would be 2023 freshman All-America tight end, 2025 Mackey Award winner. I'm sticking by that. I mean, I really believe that. 2025 Mackey Award winner and 2023 freshman All-America. That's what I think of Luke. I think he's the best. I thought he was the best tight end in the country last year. I'm really excited for Shamar Easter. That's why I asked Sam about him. It's just we knew Shamar had he had played all those sports. He wasn't here in the spring. He hadn't been in the weight room. And Shamar had some shortcomings, but his athleticism is right up there, maybe even better than Luke's, So, I mean, He's got it. It's just we knew it was going to take time. Most people did. If you knew Shamar, you knew it was going to take time. But Luke, I felt like he would start. I also predicted he would start this year, which he is. But I really think the skies. I asked Sam the other day, "Is the sky the limit for that kid?" And he said, "Yeah." I mean, I don't know if he has a limit. Even the sky. I mean, I don't think he's got a limit. He is big time, Jason. He really is. I mean, he's as good a tight end. I love Hunter Henry. I love DJ Williams and those guys, but Luke's just as good as they were, if not, and maybe has a chance to eventually be better. I don't know. I mean, that's a mouthful. Jeremy Sprinkle was a great tight end. There's been some great tight ends at Arkansas. Sprinkle kind of gets overlooked because he was here when Hunter was here, but people that know him, that know what Sprinkle could do, don't overlook him. But anyway, Luke's got a great future here, man. He's as good a tight end as there is in the country. In that freshman, he was the best freshman tight end in the country last year. Best high school senior last year. Best incoming freshman tight end. I think he'll be a freshman All-America. If he's not, and if he doesn't get hurt, and if he gets hurt in the next game or two and doesn't play the rest of the season, then that's. But I'm talking about assuming he plays out the season, that kid's got to be a freshman All-American. Hell, he may get some All-SEC mention, like second or third team. I mean, not freshman, but all. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, he is. He might beat Mike Mackey Award by a year. I mean, I don't know what route out in the country among tight ends, but I mean, this kid's got a chance in 24 and 25 both. I don't expect him to stick around in 26, but anytime. I really look for him to be a Mackey Award winner one day at Arkansas. I really do. If not, I'll be surprised.
One of the things that I did see last night, and I was talking with Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com a little bit ago, is that last night you saw the offensive line for Arkansas start to get push, which they did not have last week.
Right.
That instance where the center guard was not able to blow their guy off the line and not get a yard. Last night you saw the Razorback running game, albeit, Rashad or KJ, because each one of them had 15 and 16 carries respectively. And you saw them getting 4 and 5 yards up the middle. Now, I think that some of the penalties towards the end of the game, I think, are more mental than anything else, which one of the things is that I do want to bring up. I feel like the crowd noise was factored late in the game.
It was.
When you add that with the fatigue and the mental lapse, that's where you start to see those penalties, because when I jumped in at one point, they only had 4 penalties Arkansas did the entire game, and then they ended up with 11. So from about the midway point of the third quarter on, they racked up, if I'm not mistaken, 7 penalties alone.
Well, yeah, but this is what I had predicted in preseason would happen with the offensive line, that they would struggle against West Carolina. They would get better the next week against Kent State, then they would be better against BYU. They really didn't make the push for BYU that I thought they would. They really didn't make the improvement stride for BYU that I thought they would. I think now they are. I mean, you got to remember, they had Brady Latham playing left guard, just coming back. He didn't play the first game, but they had Bo Limmer, right guard, moved to center. Other than that, this is all new players, Jason. And I think people they expected them to just pick up where they left off, just because Sam is a great offensive line coach. And no, Cody Kennedy doesn't suck. I mean, I think people expected them to just pick up where they left off, and I think that was unrealistic. They were disappointing, but I will say this: they got 177 yards against BYU, so it's not like they didn't get some move there. But I think the push got better last night against the best defensive line by easily. Far and away that they have played. They had much better push there. Like you said, they were getting some. I think you'll see that continue. I think they'll continue to play better. They've got to cut out those mental mistakes, those errors. I mean, Brady's getting way too many penalties. Some of those were on the tight ends last night. I think Bax. I know Bax had 2 in a row. I think Luke had one. I know Brady had one. I know Braun had the one down there at the goal line.
Yeah,
I'm
that
not
was a
trying to
killer.
single out anybody. I'm just throwing out who I know. I mean, it was out there who got the penalties, so I'm not calling anybody out. It's, I mean, Bo Limmer, I'm pretty sure got one. It's not just one player. It's a unit, and
It's a collective group on that. Yeah.
So
It's a collective group on that.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's not like one player. I mean, if it was one player, you could put him on the bench and put somebody else out there in his place. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
It's a collective unit deal. And it's just, but they've got to clean that up. And once they clean up that, and if they can continue to get pushed that they got last night on, I think you'll see the offensive line start taking less and less heat. They did get 177 against BYU. I don't remember the rushing total last night. It might not even been that. Even 177, but they were getting pushed if they hadn't gotten in other games. You're right about that, and I noticed that too. And of course, one thing that running total might not have been what it was. It was probably close to 177 if it wasn't. But they were also passing the ball very well last night, so that would cut down on some of the running stuff too, Jason.
Yeah,
they were having great success through the air.
Yeah, he did. Last night totals as a team. 37 carries, 137 yards. But the reason why, though, is that KJ was 21 of 31 for 289 yards and 3 scores. Now, he did have 2 interceptions.
Well, one of those was on the
last. Was a Hail Mary at the end of it.
Yeah, that's meaningless play. He had one.
It is.
He and Daniels had one interception. He had 2, but yeah, he really won. I mean, I remember in 2021,
Missouri.
Yeah, well, 2021 against Ole Miss, he got an interception.
Ole Miss, that's right, yeah.
It's the last play of the first half, and that counted as an interception, but really it wasn't because he got it at the end of the half. He may have gotten one against Missouri like that. I see those Hail Marys just to end the half. That's kind of like guy takes a half-court shot in basketball and doesn't make it, and they counts against his percentage, but you kind of think, oh, well, so I don't worry too much about those, really, but I didn't like the interception he had against BYU. I mean, he threw it right to the guy. The one last night, I don't know what happened on that, but he's done pretty well taking care of the ball. But, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that second interception. That happens, and it's just one of those things. You throw it up, you're hoping for a deflection, bounce up, get a lucky bounce. It bounces into the receiver's hand. He goes untouched to the end zone. That's what you're hoping for there. It doesn't usually happen that way, but it has before. But, but he had one interception. He and Jaden had them back-to-back there.
Yeah, and, one of the things that I was really encouraged by was you saw Tyrone Broden catch his first touchdown as a Razorback last night. Yeah. And I am very encouraged by that because you have a tall weapon that you can use inside the red zone, more or less inside the 10-yard line, that if you need to go throw a jump ball up for him, you've got a guy that can do that. You don't have a 6'4" wide receiver that's going against a 6'2" defensive back. I mean, this guy's 6'7", legit 6'7", and he can out jump most any of those guys out there on the field.
Yeah, they moved Tesla to the slot. I don't know if he felt as comfortable there as he was out there, but I still I like Broden, and I agree that he gives you an option. I'm kind of surprised they haven't used him a little bit more on the goal line to throw the ball up to 6'7" for what you're talking about there. I still like to see Isaiah Satina. I just feel like last night they weren't letting him return the balls. They were calling the fair catch. And if you're just going to have him back there catching kickoffs, then use him at receiver. I mean, Isaiah is too good a player not to be used as a decoy in the kick return game. It seems like they're using him less and less, and I don't really like that. I'd like to see him get more reps.
Yeah, and
we'll see him for a portal.
One of the things that I was very encouraged about too was the Razorback defense last night, specifically in the first half, being able to keep everything in front of them, not giving up that big play up until the very end of the first half. Yeah. They were very aggressive on the front seven, which is something you wanted to see. Jaden Daniels, his timing was off. There was a couple of times where his wide receivers weren't helping him either, where they were dropping balls.
Yeah.
And I think that was attested to some of the timing issues where the Arkansas defensive rush was able to kind of get in his face and hurry those throws up a little bit.
Yeah, Jaheim had a rough second half, man. He had a rough game last night, Singletary, but Hudson Clark had a pretty rough game. But they did a good job for most of the first half till the very end, and then the second half though they couldn't stop that. And they've still got work to do there. But there again, like I said, I don't know how many. I mean, I don't know how many teams have a Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and the other kid that was catching those Thomas that was catching those passes last time. LSU's loaded, man. I mean, they've got some talent. They got that tight end that's good. Mm-hmm. I think he'd been out with an injury, if I'm not mistaken. He came back and played last night. But Malik Neighbors, I saw them just eat Mississippi State alive, Jason.
Yeah.
I mean, just eat them alive the week before. And before I came over to the Razorback game against BYU that day. But Neighbors, Daniels, Thomas, Taylor, they've got some studs on LSU. And, I don't know how many times teams will be able to take advantage of the Arkansas secondary as much as LSU did last night. I don't think some of these teams have as good a quarterback. Well, I know teams don't have as good a quarterback as LSU does. So that was a good test last night. And I'm interested to see what happens on Saturday, how the defense reacts to A&M, because they're good, but they're not in LSU category as far as quarterback play.
No, they're not. They'll be out. They'll be minus their starting quarterback, Connor Wegman. He was hurt yesterday, and looks like it might be a multiple week injury, unfortunately for him. But you'll see Max Johnson, which is a quarterback that Arkansas is familiar with. They saw him at LSU. Now they're seeing him at A&M. You got a guy that's not very mobile in the back, and you don't want to see him be able to sit there and try to pick apart Arkansas's defensive secondary, which is what Bobby Petrino had set up with Missouri State last year, where you kept seeing wide receivers fill holes in the defense. And that's something that, Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson are going to have to look at. That's going to be some great tape for them to look at getting set up for next week.
Yeah, they're going to be challenged. Bob, there's not a better play caller out there than Bobby Petrino. I mean, that guy's good.
No, yeah.
Great, actually, at what he does. He's not good. He's great at what he does. Bobby, I think the world of Bobby. I always did when he was here. Bobby's great. But, I don't think they've got the talent. Well, Max Johnson, I didn't know that the quarterback was out. I knew he got hurt. I was actually watching that. But since he's out, that's interesting because Johnson will have to be the quarterback. But I think that helps Arkansas because I think they've got the defensive line and linebackers and put some. I don't think you've seen all of Travis Williams' package. I think you saw a lot of it last night. But he's a good quarterback. But I mean, they're all going to be good quarterback. I mean, the guy says Max Johnson is a very good quarterback. They all are. I mean, all these teams have a very good quarterback. He's not a Jaden Daniels, though. But all these teams, I mean, Jalen Milroe is a good quarterback. I mean, very good quarterback. He's just not a great pro-style passer that they're trying to make him do in that offense. But knowing Saban, they will adjust some there in Reese, and they will start doing more things he's comfortable with doing. And by the time Arkansas plays them, they'll probably be going pretty strong on Alabama. It's getting ahead of ourselves there. But they're all these teams have good quarterbacks in the SEC. I mean, it's just I don't think they've got Jaden Daniels is elite. I can't say Max Johnson's elite. I can't do that. And so that's the difference. I mean, they're good, but they're not elite. And but Jaden Daniels is elite. So is KJ.
I really think that if you want to look at running game, establishing the running game, I think Arkansas has got the leg up on that. Just simply by what we have already witnessed, through these first 4 games. A&M, they got one guy really they can rely on. Is Levon Moss. Yesterday he had 97 yards against Auburn.
Yeah.
But, when you I don't know. Tomorrow or next Saturday is going to be an interesting one. But I think that really – if Arkansas can set up and establish a run and really slam it down their throats, I think that Arkansas is going to have a lot easier time because you're not going to rely on KJ to use it to go through the air as much. Now, if they do load the box, I think that's going to be a detriment to A&M because honestly, that secondary has been atrocious this year.
Yeah, they're Armstrong could eat that secondary apart, alive. Mm-hmm. I think Satana could too. I'd like to see him get some touches. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just talking into air, because it doesn't look like anybody's listening on that. But Broden serves a purpose. Isaac serves a purpose. But Armstrong to me he could be not just Armstrong, but Luke as well,
And Tony Brown says, if I'm not mistaken, AJ Green has done pretty well against A&M, particularly the last 2 years. Do you think he should be the running back one, even if Rocket is back? And it seems AJ is a good matchup against A&M.
No, I don't think it should be RB1. I think Rocket would be the starter, but the way Jimmy does that, it doesn't really matter who starts. They're going to get probably 15 carries max. I mean, he's not going to run somebody 25 times. He's just not. Sometimes but I'd like to see AJ or Rashad, whoever's got the hot hand, get 10 to 15 carries. I mean, I'd like to see, I think you rotate those guys. I mean, like I said, they went with the hot hand yesterday. If they didn't do that against BYU, and I want to see them go with the hot hand. I really don't care who the running back is, but AJ's capable of doing that against anybody. I've said all along, AJ Green is a great running back, people. I mean, this is a kid that was rated really high in high school. I know once you get your ratings, don't mean that much, but he was the Luke. I mean, he was rated about like Luke was coming out of high school over at Tulsa Union. I mean, he was big time, and he's very good running back. And AJ's got the speed to make you pay if you do have a busted assignment against him. But Rashad had the better game yesterday, but AJ's had the better game the other three. So I'd like to see AJ get carries against A&M regardless of whether Rocket's there or not. And I want to see him get more than 3 carries. But if they go with Rashad and he's got the hot hand, that's fine. But I hope if AJ does start or plays a lot, he's got the hot hand. I hope they give him the same benefit of the doubt that they gave Rashad yesterday and let him get that. So,
Tony Brown said, "Were y'all fans of the all red jerseys yesterday? Loved seeing them do something different. I personally liked them. I mean, it's a little bit of a different look. I just don't want to see anthracite personally. I never have liked anthracite.
Yeah, I love anthracite. I'm the only old person in the world that likes anthracite. I promise you, I'm the only old person that likes that. I hear these people in the press box going crazy, the older people, when they do that. I don't pay much attention to uniforms. I freaked out with the all red yesterday because John wasn't down there. It turned out Craven was, so we got pictures because I was freaking out. Because if it's look, man, if we don't go and there's a white jersey on the team or just a normal red jersey, we've got pictures. We can fake our way through it usually, but there was no faking those red shirts, red pants last night. It turned out Craven was there. He bailed us out last night, man.
Yeah.
And I was freaking out about pictures. But, I liked the uniform last night. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you that the helmet This might have been when Arkansas played Kansas State in the Liberty Bowl with Brett was here. And they had that chrome helmet.
The chrome, I remember that. Yeah, the chrome
I believe that was the Liberty Bowl with Brett. I believe
against K-State.
Whatever it was, whatever game it was. I think it was Kansas State Liberty Bowl with Brett. God, I love that helmet. I'd love to see something like that with the red they had last night. I think that'd rock, man. I mean, I'm not a big uniform guy. I'll leave the state. I'm going to be honest with you. I noticed the red last night simply because I was freaking out about pictures. But normally I can go over here to the game and watch the game, and I can leave there and somebody can call me and ask me what color uniform Arkansas had. I don't even know. I don't pay attention to it. But I did last night because, like I said, I'm freaking out about pictures till I found out at halftime Craven was there, so I felt a lot more comfortable with it. But no, I like those uniforms. I'd like to see them use those chrome helmets. So I thought those were bad, man. I thought those were pretty sick, man. I mean, those rock.
Those are pretty slick. I'm not gonna lie. They were pretty dang cool looking.
I love that helmet, man.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm working on something here real quick, Otis, too, while we're talking. Yeah, this matchup with A&M coming up this weekend, I think it's going to be exactly what it was yesterday, this weekend. Who has the ball last? And if that's the case, I know that Sam talked about possibly letting them score because they were moving the ball fairly fluid. No, fairly. They were moving the ball fluid on offense.
I thought he would with 1 minute left. They were stopping him up the middle on that run. I thought they would let him score. I mean, you get the ball back with 1 minute left in the game, you've actually got a chance to do something then, Jason, with KJ at quarterback. You've got a chance 1 minute left. I mean, no timeouts. It's a long shot, but you've got a chance. I really thought they would let him score. Now, he may have been right. Sam was asked about that in a press conference afterward, and he said he didn't think they would have scored. They could have done that and then kneeled down at the 1 inch line or something.
Yeah.
You know?
And that
I feel like they probably would have scored because it looked like their running back was fighting for yardage there when Arkansas was keeping him out. And I thought with about a minute to go, boy, I get it, man. That's tough. When you're a coach like Sam, and I thought Herbstreit and them hit it pretty much. They were talking about, that's the right thing. But when you've got the competitive side of you that Pittman has, and of course, there again, I thought Kelly misused the timeouts. He used all 3 of his timeouts. They had that 4th down field goal to win it. Yeah, it's a chip shot, but what if there's a bad snap there, That's why you say 1 timeout, Jason, if you're LSU, because if that's a bad snap and then you got another timeout, you can fall on it and then take a timeout and then reorganize. Whereas if that's a bad snap there, then Pittman looks like a genius not letting them score because you're going to overtime. So that's
exactly.
I thought I'm not saying Sam misused his knowledge there on that, not letting them score. I thought that was Arkansas's best chance, but I get that. But I thought Kelly probably, and I think the TV guys pointed out that he probably should have saved one of those timeouts. I just know that when you're going with that final field goal and you're out of timeouts and you get a bad snap there, anything can happen. It's over, man. Bad snap. So that's why I would have saved one of those. But hey, LSU won. Kelly's a great coach. No, he's forgotten more than I know. So and I'm not really questioning the guy. I'm just saying that. Yeah. And like I said, I think Herbstreit or the other guy made the same point about that. I'm just thinking, you're using all 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
I'm leery of that because bad snaps can happen, man. It can happen. Yeah. It's late in the game. Your hands are sweaty. Mm-hmm. I know they got towels. I get all that, but I'm just saying, bad snaps can happen, and and that's why I might kick the field goal on 3rd down, instead of 4th, and saved a timeout there. But whatever. I mean, it worked out for LSU. They won the game. Great game. That's all that matters.
Yep. Here's that helmet that you were talking about, my man.
That thing rocks, man. You put that with the all red uniform last night. I'm gonna tell you, man.
Yeah.
Now they had a white one. They had a white one with just a red hog, a little red hog. I hated that one. I did not like that because if the lighting was wrong, you couldn't really see the hog that much. I thought the white one was awful. That helmet right there, you put that with that uniforms they wore last night. And I'm not a big uniform guy. Like I said, I can go leave the stadium and can't even tell you what they had on. But that last night, I did notice the red, in part because I was freaking out about photos. But also, I like that all red. I like something different. And I as soon as I say that, I know what Alabama doesn't do anything different than they win every year. I hear that all the time. That's fine. That's Alabama. Arkansas is not Alabama. So let's just get that out of the way. Start with Arkansas is not Alabama. I mean, Saban set a different level there. A lot of schools are not Alabama. So let's don't say, well, Alabama doesn't do this. Alabama doesn't have to do things. But they're coming back down to earth a little bit too. So,
Yep. There's a couple of opinions on here that I want to bring up real quick. J Jones 12 says AJ Green's a track guy and that Dubinion is a clear number one back, then thinks that AJ doesn't run hard at all. I have to disagree with that personally. I think, Otis, you feel the same way as well on that. I feel fairly confident on talking in that.
Well, all I know is the 3 games before this, AJ was averaging 6.8 yards a carry or something, and Dubinion was averaging like 3.4. So, I mean, I'm going by what I see on the field. I don't think Dubinion was a clear number 2 guy because he was not the starter. So, he looked better last night. But let's be honest about this. If you take the 4 games, AJ be ahead 3-1 on it. And I don't have a dog in this hunt. I don't really know AJ or Rashad that well. So it's not like I'm biased. I'm just going by what I see on the field. I just felt like last week AJ had 3 carries for 63 yards on the first drive, and they gave him 6 touches the rest of the night. I just think that's crazy. I mean, you got to feed the hot. I like feeding the hot hand. Like I said last night, Rashad had the hot hand. Feed him, man, and they did.
Go with it, yeah. Tony Brown says everyone during the summer made a point of saying how good James Singletary was, but seems like he might be the weak link in the secondary, specifically corners. Well, one game really doesn't define that either.
But now BYU game, he graded out higher than any cornerback on the team. So let's be fair on that. I mean, Jaheim Singletary was rated really high by the fans because he was a 5-star recruit out of high school. That's that simple.
Yeah.
But now one bad game doesn't make you. It's kind of like I'm talking about with AJ. I mean, of all the cornerbacks against BYU, Jaheim Singletary graded out the highest of all of them. So let's be fair about it. He had a rough night last night. The kid had a rough night, but that can happen. But I'm going to tell you, he wasn't going against average Joes last night. I mean, Neighbors and Thomas can make a lot of people.
Those are elite.
God, those guys. And then you got quarterback putting the ball right on the money, too. I mean, but Singletary, I wouldn't call him the weak link. I mean, if you're going to base it off one game, you say Rashad's the best running back and James a weak link at corner. But you're basing it simply on last night. I'm taking a 4-game deal, and Jaheim has graded out at least 2 of those games. I know he did against BYU. Not my grade. I'm talking about the coach's grade. He had the highest grade among the quarterbacks.
He did.
I'm pretty sure he did one of the other 2 games as well. And he played well against Western Carolina, if I remember. Braxton had a rough game that game, and first initial game as a Razorback. But I don't know, man. I don't like putting all in one game, because if you do that, you're not being fair.
You're limiting yourself at that point.
4-game deal. And look, they're going to need Rashad. They're going to need AJ. And like I said, I know it appears I'm biased towards AJ. I'm not. I don't know either one of those kids that well. All I know is AJ had the hot hand against BYU. They didn't ride it, and they did ride Rashad last night. And it might not have made any difference against BYU. But I'm all for riding the hot hand. And hey, if it's Dominic Johnson, then ride that hot hand. I don't care who it is.
Yeah. Johnny Jones says Singletary was covering an NFL talent. You can't blame it all on him. I completely agree.
That's right. And there was one time, and I don't remember if that was Singletary, but there was one time where the corner didn't get the help from Hudson Clark that he was expecting. And I think that might not have been Singletary. Maybe that was McLaughlin, but there was one play where Hudson Clark.
It was either him or Al Walcott.
Yeah, well, the one time was Hudson Clark didn't help out. That it might have been one, but there was a time where one of the corners was But anyway, I mean, those are NFL guys, and you have rough games, and the kid kind of snowballed, dominoed on him, and that happens, man. I mean, bad games happen. I mean, you see the greatest players. I mean, I've seen Kobe Bryant go out there and can't throw it in the ocean some nights, and I mean, Michael Jordan had rough games. The greatest of great, LeBron, all of them have bad games, and James Singletary, a redshirt freshman, have a bad game. Let's don't overdo it. Let's don't overblow that. I mean, the kid has played decent football overall. Now, not last night, but overall, and I'm looking at this overall. I'm looking at a 4-game deal, and that's why I look at the offensive line. I'm seeing improvement every game. Still, I mean, they still got a ways to go. I'm not saying they act like, oh, it's a great offensive line. Anybody criticize?
But they've made steady improvements each week.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. And I didn't see them. And I think I know I stated this earlier. I didn't see the improvement from Kent State to BYU that I expected, but it was better. 177 yards. It was better. And I felt like even though they didn't rush for as much, I don't think that was a reflection of the offensive line as much as they were just having so much success throwing the football last night that they just throw it. I mean, you'd be a fool not to ride KJ's hot hand when you got Luke and Armstrong and, those guys are dominating. Broden had a nice catch or two. I'm proud they gave him that touchdown because I thought they were going to screw him out of it. Talking about Broden, because that was a clear touchdown, man. I mean, that was a clear touchdown. Luke might have even had one that they really didn't break the plane of his end zone there.
You know what? I was wondering about that too because I thought he had control of it in air and outstretched, broke the plane, and then came back.
Yeah. You can make an argument for that. I'm not going to get on the referee bandwagon or blaming them, but I'm just telling you, I'm not for sure. I can't say for sure that Luke didn't score there. I really can't.
Johnny Jones says, I'm not even upset about last night. To those who are saying fire Sam Pittman, who are we going to go get? Butch Jones?
I can't deal with the negative. I
can't either.
Look, man, it's a ball game. Look, it's a game. It's a game. And after a while, all some people do is bitch, moan, and groan, and it gets old.
Yep.
I'm telling you, I get frustration, and you can vent, but there's a difference between venting and just sitting there, fire. It's all some of these people know, and that shit gets old. It really does. Crap gets old. I shouldn't say it on there, but that crap gets old, man. And I mean, I'm just telling you, I've had it with all that negative stuff. I'm not going to.
Especially with hot takes.
My job after the game, and I'm here to be a jerk on Facebook. I told people to leave me alone. Look, as soon as the game ends, I start having people just bombard me with negative stuff, with gripes. They're venting. Well, first place, when the game ends, I have to go to Zoom to do Pittman and the players. Then I have to help, either transcribe or get quotes together. Then I have to write two stories. And when my phone beeps, I've got to check because it could be you, it could be Drake, it could be Lanny, it could be Dudley, it could be John, or it could be Craven. Yeah. I got to check. So every time I check the phone and there's somebody venting, it breaks my concentration on working, and it's not fair to me for people to be doing it. Besides that, why are you venting to me? I can't do a damn thing about Arkansas. I mean, I can sit here and raise Cain about everything that happens over there, and nothing's going to change. There's no point in venting to me. I mean, I have no control over anything that they do over there, and I mean, honestly, I don't want to hear it. I mean, it's a ball game. It's a game, man. I mean, you
might have to start charging him for therapy sessions after the game.
I said I'm not Dr. Phil tonight, man. That's what I put on there. I'm not Dr. Phil tonight. I'm not going to be the Dr. Phil therapist. I've got work to do, and when my phone beeps and I look and it's that crap, I have to look because, like I said, it could be you or Drake or Dudley or John or Craven or Lanning or somebody needing something. So I've got to check it, but it's hard. It's hard to concentrate when you're having to check your phone every 30 seconds or every 10 seconds because of people venting. And I don't, like I said, I don't know why they're venting to me. I'm pretty accessible for media. I mean, I've been very accessible through the years to the fans, and I don't mind that. If without them, we wouldn't have a job. But respect me enough to know that when I'm working just because the game ends and you're frustrated, my job, Jason's job,
it starts.
It just starts. It's easier for me to talk during the game than it is after the game. I mean, I finished at 12:30 last night. I got home about 1:15 the Saturday night before that. Part of that was having to walk to lot 56 and then drive home. But I got finished at 12:30 last night. Drake was late getting his story, pretty late, or not real late, but some. And I had to, get it up. And I'm telling you, folks, I don't have time for that. I just don't. I'm not being a jerk. I'm really not. But if I call them on their job or text to them on their job and vented and irritated, they'd say, I would expect them to say something to me,
Yeah. Tony Brown also said, do we see Varquise Gums the rest of the season? Seems is locked up and tied in one.
Luke's locked up the starting tight end, but what they're doing, they're going with
Nathan
Bax and the kid from Louisville. What they're doing, they're going with a blocker on the other one. I'd like to see Gums get some run there with Luke. I know you sacrifice some blocking when you do that, but to me,
if the offensive line was more shored up, I think we would see more of Varkey's. But I think that at this point, they're having to use an extra blocker like you've talked about, where it's not featured Varkey's as much.
Yeah, it's Bax and Francis Sherman. I mean, that's the other tight end when they go that 12 package. But I don't know. I'd like to see Gums get some playing time. I really would. Gums and Satana are the two that I kind of on the bandwagon. I want to see more of them involved in the offense, especially if you get to where it's obvious passing downs, then put Gums in where, and I don't know. Bax got 2 penalties last night. I mean, Sherman, I've seen him miss some blocks. I don't know that he's doing as great as they seem to think. I don't know. I just like to see Gums and Satana get a little bit more playing time at receiver and tight end. I'd like to see it. But no, Luke's going to be the starting tight end. And Luke should be the starting tight end, but there's a place to play Gums with him. You can play both of them at the same time.
I'm glad Tony Brown brought this up. It was Scott Fountain. He got hammered a couple of years ago after that Georgia game, and it seemed like everybody just kind of started dumping on that guy. And he didn't have the horses on special teams to do what he was wanting to do. Then you see last night, Max Fletcher takes the fake, runs it up the gut, grabs that first down, damn near made a touchdown. And you really, whenever you don't talk about the special teams, other than maybe a doink by Cam Little here or there, it seems like he has maybe once a year. Last year was A&M, unfortunately. And then he had the doink against BYU.
Well, the one game that special teams has been bad this year was BYU. They had the 10-yard punt from Fletcher, the 28-yard punt from Fletcher, and the field goal from Cam, the missed field goal.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, people that crap on Fountain or forget that they used to have a kicker. They didn't have anybody kick it in the end zone. Now it's automatic touchdown. I mean, it was like, why can't Arkansas get a kicker and kick the ball out of the end zone? I mean,
you got one now.
Every year, no matter if it's Vito, no matter who it is. The kid last year, I forget his name, and then Cam Little. I mean, they've all been able to kick it out the back of the end zone. Fletcher has been very good punting the ball, except for those 2 punts. And Cam missed that 1 field goal. So, I mean, other than that, I don't know. I mean, Satana had the 80-yard. Even last game against BYU, I say the special teams wasn't good, but Satana had an 88-yard punt return for a touchdown. So, it wasn't like they were just completely awful. But, I mean, that's the game where you had the 2 bad punts and the missed field goal. But, Fountain's done a good job as special teams coach. People, I don't know what they expect there. I just know when they talk about I saw a guy, I forget who it was, some media guy, and it was somebody that does one of those sites that doesn't really cover the games, but he does, but he's not there. Fountain was the worst assistant he'd ever seen at Arkansas, and I'm sitting there thinking,
wow, do they even follow the team?
Good
Lord.
I mean, Joe Craddock, the offensive coordinator for Chad Forrest, and I could name you a lot of coaches. It's a lot worse than Fountain. I mean, that guy, Fountain does a good job. He had a rough, his unit as a whole, except for Satana's punt return, had a rough game against BYU, but other than that, they've been fine. I mean, they gave Arkansas a chance to win. Yeah, you don't want field goals there, but I remember, getting a field goal, getting 3 down there is better than getting nothing. There's been years back there used to before he came when the field goal, even when he was here, when they had a kicker or two, it could make those chip shot field goals. I mean, getting 3 is not what you want. You want 7, but getting 3 is better than nothing. And there's been times they didn't get anything down there. Fountain's done a good job with special teams.
There's been times where Arkansas had to have 2 place kickers, one inside the 40 and then one outside the 40. Now you got one that takes care of it all.
Yeah.
That's Anyway, Johnny Jones, where was Landon Jackson gone to? I didn't hear his name last night. Yeah, he was there. He did get burned on that next to last touchdown that Daniels threw. He got left in space. I don't know why, but his responsibility was the slot receiver. He came across the middle, and it was a super easy pitch and catch. It looked like three defensive backs had pulled over to the far side to go cover two guys, and somebody should have broke off to intercept the guy coming across the middle, which they didn't. And I think Landon also had an offsides, but he had a pretty solid game. I mean, his name wasn't called a lot, but he had a pretty solid game.
Yeah, I know Eric Gregory had the one offside. I don't remember Landon. He could have, though, but I don't remember all the plays. I know Eric stood out because it was, 3rd and 5, and he jumped, and then they got the foot down. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're rotating those defensive linemen a lot. So, you hear I know Kiwi had a big play last night.
Yeah, he got a sack last night again.
Yeah, Kiwi does a lot. I've asked Sam about if there was a chance that he might move into that starting lineup. Maybe I didn't ask. Maybe ahead of Carter. Kari and Carter. I don't know, but whatever. They're going to keep rotating those guys, and the offensive line improved last night. They've improved the last 2 games. They're not perfect by any stretch, and they're still getting too many penalties. But they're improved. As far as their blocking and protecting KJ, they're still doing a better job. They're not there yet, and I don't know if they'll ever be. Remind you of that 2015 offensive line. I don't know that you'll ever have an offensive line this year like that unit was, because those were very experienced starters. Dan Skipper, Denver Kirkland. You had
Frank Ragnow.
You had talent in that line. Older, experienced talent.
Didn't Travis Swanson? Wasn't he also on that line too?
I can't remember who all was there. I remember Skipper and Kirkland started as freshmen in 13 with Sam as guards, even though they were going to play tackle. They were the offensive guards that year just to get them in the lineup, and then they branched out to tackle. And, Dan Skipper might have been the tallest offensive guard in the country. But, they had Swanson played for Sam. I don't own that 15 team. I think Ragnow. But there was a lot of talent on that line. And this, I don't know. What I'm getting at is I don't think this offensive line will ever be as good as that one was. But they're getting better every week. They still got a long way to go. But I think they're getting there. Will they get there completely? I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just looking for improvement each week, and I think we've seen that for the most part. Like I said, they're by no means am I ready to say the offensive line's the strength of the team. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think they're getting better, and I'm seeing some improvement each week, maybe small strides. One thing, I think they're getting a little healthier there. I did see Devin Manuel in more last night. Andrew.
Yeah, he was in a lot in the fourth quarter.
So I mean, they're getting more healthy there. They battled Ragnow. Latham didn't play the first game, So they battled some injuries there, and hopefully they'll get that squared away. I think that's a unit that's going to get better and better as the season goes along. But they've got to cut out those penalties. They've just got to. I mean, there's way too many penalties on the team. There's way too many on that offensive line. They're getting way too many penalties. Even if it's just false starts, that's 5 yards. There's just too many of them. You can't win with 25 penalties in 2 weeks.
The secondary coach that J. Jones 12 is asking about, I do believe, is Darren Wilson. He's the guy that's on
the sideline, not in the box.
Darren Wilson. Yeah.
Marcus Hudson. Charles Woodson. Marcus Woodson's in the box. I'm pretty sure Travis Williams is in the box. I mean, I know he's linebacker coach, but I think Darren. But they're doing. They're again. It's been. McLaughlin had a nice interception. They're getting there. It's just again, let's don't overlook the fact they were going against some big time talent last time, man.
Yeah. Tony Brown asked, and we're going to wrap this up here in just a minute. Do y'all feel worse, the same, or better about Arkansas football than you did on Friday?
Well, I don't feel worse.
No,
I don't feel worse. I don't know that I feel a whole lot better. I felt like Arkansas could play. I didn't know if they would. And my prediction was not that close, but I felt like they could play LSU off their feet. That's kind of what you expect with Arkansas and LSU. Arkansas plays well at night down in Baton Rouge for some reason, but I don't I don't know if I feel any better. I guess I don't feel worse. That's for sure.
I honestly feel slightly better because you saw the improvement from third to fourth week.
Well,
that's what I was wanting to see.
Yeah, I felt like the offense looked a little bit more in the. I mean, they struggled with Enos being the new offensive coordinator and KJ at quarterback and stuff. By their standards, they've struggled some, Jason. And I felt like the offense showed some strides last night that maybe they're coming alive and they're gripping this new offense now and they're getting the system down. So I feel a lot better in that sense. Because I felt like now the defense took a step back the second half, but I feel like the offense looked better last night, looked more like it should look than it had. So I feel better in that regard. I don't feel worse. I mean, there was nothing about that. You lose the number 12 team in the country by 3 points at their place in a night game. I'm
not all about moral victories, but that's about as good as you can get on a loss.
Yeah.
So, well, Otis, I don't want to take any more of your time. I want you to get some rest. We got a busy week coming up, and everybody, I want to thank you for jumping on with us today. We'll be back next week. So if you guys check out hogville.net, YouTube Live, I've got the interview with myself and Dudley with Coach Courtney Deifel. You can watch that. That's on. It's been out for about an hour now. And watch for Otis's articles and columns that he's going to write for Hogville and for Pigtail Nation. And be sure to catch all the shows next week. We've got Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South next Sunday at 2 p.m. And then Otis, you're going to follow him right after that. And then I got Dudley on at 4:30 after that. So we'll be here also right after the game, myself and Drake Pretty. We got a busy week coming up, y'all. So be sure to check us out at any time, also on hogville.net for all of these shows as well. Now for Otis and myself, I want to thank you guys. Otis, really quick, I'm going to get you out of here. Do you have a score prediction yet for next Saturday, or do you want to save that for your column on Friday?
I haven't even thought about that, to be honest with you. I'm not really saving it. I just haven't thought about it. I
gotcha.
It's hard to pick Arkansas when they find ways to lose to A&M, but I feel like Arkansas – I just got a feeling they may win that game next week. I just feel like I think this is a better team than they're getting trashed, and I feel like it's a little bit better team. But they've got to cut out the penalties. I mean, they've 25 penalties in the last 2 weeks. It's just if they have that double-digit penalty fest in Arlington, they will lose again.
They will. I feel like next week, KJ, and this, I'm not trying to make this as a hot take. I'm just making this as more of an educated guess, because I feel like hot takes are emotional deep dives that just come out with information because you feel like you got to get it out there in space. But I feel like next week, KJ has the best chance over the next 4 weeks to have a 350-yard passing performance plus. I really do. Because with that secondary, I think that he has that chance. So that's where I'm going to end it from there. And Otis, thank you again. Go take care of those dogs and that sweet cat of yours. I got my technical producer Max over here laying on the bed. He's been asleep the whole time, so he's been napping on the job. I might have to wake him up and put him to work. So
my left foot's asleep because my bulldog has slept on it the whole time we've been on here. So now I might have to get my left foot back, get some feeling into it. I've had an 80-pound bulldog sleeping on it. So, okay, man. God. Thanks, and I'll talk to you next week. I'll see you this week at some point, I'm sure.
All right, sound good.
Thanks,
and
man.
Thank y'all for jumping on with us. This has been the Razorback Football Report with Otis Kirk. I'm your host, Jason Pattyson, and thank you guys. We'll see you next week.